In every heartache, there's a hidden seed of strength. Join Portia Booker on The Grief Grantor as we journey through stories of resilience, finding gratitude in the echoes of grief. Together, we transform sorrow into strength, pain into purpose. Welcome to The Grief Grantor, where your healing journey begins.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Grief Grantor. I am your host, Portia Booker, also your grief awareness advocate. And I got to share with you guys, I am grateful for the challenges in my life. Let me say that one more time. I am grateful for the challenges in my life. Let me dive more into that. So recently, I had an employer approach me on LinkedIn. And this is a well-known employer. I won't say who they are, but they asked me for my latest resume. Now, I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I haven't updated my resume since probably 2019 when I left my corporate job. And I had to take a minute to really push myself. And what I mean by push myself is the old Portia would have said, no, I'm not going to take time to do that. I'm not ready. It's not together. You guys, I'm proud of myself for mustering through the trenches of my own limiting beliefs, right? We all have limiting beliefs that we're not worthy to receive something, or that we're not great enough, or it's not perfect. But I'm gonna be honest, y'all, when I got that message and they wanted that, I took the time to be intentional about really getting it done. I mean, I cleared my whole calendar for that entire day to work on that. And I got to say, I finished it in a day. I mean, I redid my resume completely. And the only thing that's on it is all the production stuff that I've done since I became an entrepreneur in 2019. And when I look back now, at first I didn't think, I'm like, man, what am I going to put on here? What am I going to share with these people? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't have enough to tell them. I don't have enough for them to be wanting to reach out to me to have me be interviewed for a position. What do I have to offer? But when I took the time to really write down every single project, every single client, and every single event that transpired within that time frame up until now, it really blew me away. I said, wow, I am worthy. I am capable. I deserve this. They wouldn't be reaching out to me for any just because I'm me. They saw something in me. And so I share this with all of you today, is when we're going through what I call the storms in our life, or if we feel as though we're swimming upstream and not with the current, know that those challenges are there to help you build onto your skills, right? I kind of look at it as if you're going to the gym, right? You want to compete in a Tough Mudder run or a marathon, but maybe you're a little rusty at getting back into the swing of working out, right? So you might need some WD-40 on your joints or something like that, right? But eventually, as you are persistently doing these routines and activities, right, it becomes like muscle memory, like walking and chewing gum, and you'll eventually get to where you need to go. And it's kind of the same thing of what I just went through, where the old version of me would have completely said, nope, ain't doing it. But there was a little voice in the back of my head that said, Portia, give it a shot. Portia, give it a shot. So how many of you today are going to give yourselves a shot for whatever that next opportunity is, whether it's a new career pivot, whether it's writing that book, or taking the leap into a new relationship or partnership? How many of you are going to take that time through the challenge to muster up enough courage to find and go after what you really want? Let that sink in. So we're going to take our first quick break right here on the Grief Grantor. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by an individual who I like to say has created an unthinkable challenge that really shows the true resilience of us being human. So we'll be right back here on the Grief Grantor.
Are you ready to illuminate your path and embrace your true purpose? Welcome to the Secrets of Being retreat in the breathtaking landscapes of Costa Rica. Experience a life-changing journey, surrounded by the vibrant energy of nature. Make connections with like-minded visionaries and change-makers like yourself. Discover the power of love and light as we dive into transformative workshops, guiding you to unlock your highest potential and radiate positivity. Connect with the wisdom of the earth, immersing yourself in the beauty of Costa Rica. Let nature inspire your journey of self-discovery. Awaken the visionary within, and let your light guide you to create a positive impact on the world. Join us at the Secrets of Being retreat and shine bright. Reserve your spot now and take the first step towards a purposeful, inspiring life. Embrace the secrets. Embrace your light. Embrace your being.
All right, everybody, welcome back right here on the Grief Grantor. As I mentioned before we went to break, how many of you are going to challenge yourself through the storms that you're currently going through to really build the courage to go after what you want? Because as I mentioned before, that these storms that we go through, these challenges are there to help us build character. And I love to tell all my friends, whenever they're going through something, I always ask them, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want that job? How bad do you want that car? Right? Nothing is ever too far out of our reach to reach it. So today we have the honor of being joined by the first gentleman on the Grief Grantor show. So I'm going to give a little background about this individual before I bring him onto the stage. So one of the things that I really want to talk about with this individual today, he's an author of the book Unthinkable, Life Teachings from a Soul Surfer and the Grief of Gratitude of the Journey of Being a Divorced Dad. So one of the things that, as you all know about the Grief Grantor show, I focus on embracing gratitude in order to evolve grief. And one of the things that we don't often talk about is the grief that men tend to go through in their own lives that replicate certain situations that us as women go through. So without further delay, I'm going to invite Mr. Marcel Kuhn to the stage. Hello, Marcel. How you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much. Sorry, my voice is a little bit hoarse now, but I'm happy to be here.
Hey, we'll make it work. I'm having the same thing. We're having weather changes, obviously, here. And I think one of my other fellow broadcast friends, we had this conversation about drinking hot water throughout the day to keep our vocals from sounding like dying cats. So, Marcel, first and foremost, what are you grateful for today?
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here now and be connected with you. We had a really good conversation, and yeah, just happy to be here and go deeper now in this space.
I appreciate it, Marcel. You know, I'm grateful for the present moment, right? Like I talk about this a lot because I think when we're in seasons of grief, it seems like Groundhog Day, right? And one of the things I'm just going to dive right in, Marcel. You know, you are someone who is a divorced dad, right? And this is something that in society we see it, but how often do we take the time to really ask the question of how is this divorced dad navigating the grief journey of not being in the company of their family, the original nucleus that they started with? So, Marcel, for our audience who is tuning in, right, how do you navigate the grief of going from seeing your children on a daily basis to now visiting with them on occasion?
Yeah, that was a really disruptive moment, and it was a moment where I felt I lost everything what I built for the 10 years of relationship and the relationship I built with my kids. And this was an illusion that I had, that I lost everything. And it's now absolutely not true. But The feeling of loss was real. The feeling of free falling, it was a moment where I just I was free falling without any ground. And that's when I discovered the power of gratitude, because the being grounded and being grateful stopped my fall, the free fall. It stopped it.
And Marcel, speak more into that, right? Like I always say, gratitude is the life jacket that keeps us afloat during seasons of adversity. And you're obviously a surfer. We'll dive more into that. So I know you get where I'm going with this. And so, how would you say, Marcel, that the experience, the pain, right? The pain of you becoming this divorced dad. How would you say that gratitude kept you afloat then and into the present moment?
Yeah, I think as yeah, you mentioned it. I'm a surfer, and my book is about Unthinkable and life teachings from a soul surfer. So it's all about the lessons we learn from the waves and from the ocean. And the ocean teaches us to be present in the present moment at all times. And many times we attach to our feelings of the past, regrets of the past, what we didn't do, how we wanted to do, and we are anxious about the future. But when you're in the ocean and surfing, you have to be in the present moment, otherwise you never catch a wave. And I feel when I went through this separation and divorce, the situation really taught me to be grateful for being here and not being anxious about the future or regretting the past. And for me, the divorce, it was not about shame. It was not that I felt lack of. It was more about letting go of the kids, or how it has been, because the change can never be stopped. And when you go with the flow, with the current, and not try to keep the situation the same, you're actually really present. And that's when I practice gratitude daily.
Marcel, I'm going to throw in a pun for a minute. I'm curious, Marcel, obviously the ocean, we always talk about how grief is like the ocean, right? It comes in waves. Sometimes it's overwhelming, and other times you're able to float without getting too much salt water thrown in your mouth. So, Marcel, I'm curious for you, what is on the days that become really trying for you? Because I'm sure that you have moments. What keeps you afloat and not drowning in your emotions on those hard days?
For me, what's really important is surrender to the ocean. So become one with the ocean and not fight it, because when you fight the waves, or when you fight the current, when you paddle against the current, you will always lose, because the ocean and the power of the waves is always stronger than yours. So surrendering, for me, it's not giving up, but it's giving in. So allowing you to be still and be present, and not to fight.
Marcel, one of the things that I talked about on my other show, my podcast, Grew with Portia, was how grief holds several hidden gifts. What would you say was a hidden gift that you discovered through your divorce that you're able to share with other men who might be in the same boat as you?
The greatest gift that was given to me was the journey to self-love. When this happened, when I got informed that she wanted to leave me, I was really shocked, and I didn't see it coming. Sometimes when you're in something, you don't have a higher perspective, and you maybe don't see what's happening. And then it felt like a failure, a big failure in the beginning. And the greatest gift was when the epiphany that I had one moment, that it was not her, it's not me, it's just the wrong match. So the journey that we walked together had ended, and it's not her fault, it's not my fault, it's just a mismatch, or we have done our time together, and I got this huge sensation of self-love and feeling I'm enough as I am. And that was the greatest gift, because I think in society we don't talk about self-love a lot, especially men. We don't talk about self-love. This sounds more esoteric and spiritual, but when you think about it, it's really the basis. The relationship with yourself is the basis for any relationship with any other person. So you cannot build a relationship with someone else if you don't love yourself, if you don't show up for yourself, if you don't stand strong for yourself. So that's the greatest gift.
Marcel, I want you to speak more into that, because I know you have an acronym for self-love. You've used the word flow to describe what I call finding love and oneness within. So what did it take, Marcel, for you to find this flow within instead of what I like to call drowning in it?
Yeah, so that came along the journey, this acronym of flow, finding love and oneness within. And when you go through crisis, you realize that actually whatever you feel inside, you project outside. So finding peace and being in oneness within gives you peace outside. So that's really important, that we are okay with ourselves, and that when self-love comes in. And I think that's what grief and this difficult situation taught me, that whenever you love yourself, when you stand up for yourself, you are never alone, and you will always be safe. And this is the basis for building your new reality, your dream reality.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, I don't think we talk about self-love enough, and yet alone, for you being a man, it almost sounds taboo to talk about self-love, being a man, yet alone a divorced dad, because there tends to be what I call this societal narrative for both individuals when it comes to grief, right? There tends to be this narrative that women have to be super emotional during grief, versus in comparison to men, they have to be what I call the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz, right? You can't show any ounce of emotion. You're supposed to just hold it all together like a Barbie doll, and it doesn't work that way. So I appreciate, Marcel, you really shining light on this, because I think that we need to change the conversation, right? We need to change the way that we view grief. We need to change the way that we view self-love, and learn to incorporate it into a more holistic way into our lives, instead of just as empty words that tend to be spewed out amongst the masses. So we're going to take a quick break right here on the Grief Grantor, everybody. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Marcel. We'll be right back.
This is Madeline Blair, the host of Unlocked, where we open possibilities for when the unexpected happens. Join me Thursdays at noon and again at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Business Network, right here on E360 TV.
Ready to transform your life in just 21 days? Join Marcel Kuhn's 21-day Unthinkable Challenge webinar. In a power-packed 90-minute live session, you'll discover the key skill, habit, or activity to catapult you towards your boldest dreams. Tailored for those who crave more from life, this webinar is your first step to an extraordinary journey. Embrace limitless possibilities and unlock your full potential. And the journey doesn't end there. Gain access to our exclusive global community for ongoing support, inspiration, and unique content. Don't wait. Sign up today and step into the realm of the unthinkable. Your dream life awaits.
All right, everybody, welcome back right here on the Grief Grantor. We are joined by Marcel, and we were continuing our conversation about obviously Marcel's journey of being a divorced dad and being able to find flow and learning how to love himself through the grief of being a divorced dad. Marcel, before we continue the conversation, if one of our listeners and audience wants to connect with you, is there a website or social media handle that they can connect with you?
Yeah, yeah. So I use the unthinkableliving.com. That's my website handle, and on Instagram I'm at unthinkable mastermind. And especially for the divorced dads, separated dads, I have to handle elevated minus dads. That's where I talk about being a dad, being a separated dad, and how to elevate ourselves to be the best dads we can be.
Excellent, excellent. Marcel, I want to go back to something that you brought up in the first segment, right? Something that was very intentional and very mature of what you said about you and your wife separating, right? It wasn't you, it wasn't her. Both of you just were not a match for each other, right? And I'm curious, Marcel, for our audience who's tuning in, there tends to be a lot of what I call the blame game. Well, he this, she this, right? What did it take for you to reach that level of awareness, right? And how can more people adopt that mindset when they are going through a separation, right? Because I think that there tends to, obviously, there's a lot of emotions involved, right? Hands down. But I think the way that you describe this is, it really shows your character a lot and the maturity that you have around this and the level of self-love that you've invested in yourself. So how can others who are either in the same boat as you or are embarking on that grief journey, what can they maybe ask themselves, right, to really not take on the blame game, right, and recognize that they're just enough as who they are, and the same thing with their partner, but maybe they're just not a match for each other.
Yeah, so this question, I think I don't know how to answer this at the moment, to be honest. So can you reframe your question?
Sure. What did it take for you to recognize that I'm enough as I am, she is enough as she is, and we're just not a match for each other, and that's okay?
So for me, this was a movie moment of where I had this moment. I saw 3,000 scenes in front of my eyes, just going really fast, like in a moment when I saw, okay, we are just not a match, okay. And from that moment on, I decided, okay, if we are not a match, I want to be divorced. Because for me, there was no shame about being divorced. There was shame of feeling I lost the family. I felt like a failure of losing the family. That's what I felt. But for me, going from separated to divorced was no problem for me, because it's the expectations of society, they don't really matter to me. And so for me, it was, there is this analogy that someone shared with me, that everyone always does it as best as they can. So when you're in a building and you're really well aware, you're maybe in the 20th floor, so you see a different view than the person that sees that lives on the first floor of the building. But there is no judgment, there is no better or higher or more. It's just different perspective. And every person, and I repeat this, every person does always the best they can in that time. So it's never personal, even though maybe they use words against you, whatever. But it's not really personal. It's everyone acts from their level of understanding, of awareness. So there is no judgment in that. And my my role model for this was always Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa, who went from prison to leading the nation and unifying the nation. And now it was called the Rainbow Nation, or it's called the Rainbow Nation, because he unified all colors. When he was 27 years, or this 9,000 days in prison, he united the whites and the blacks and all colors. He united them and led them as one nation. And that is kind of my role model that I follow. And many days I don't manage to always go on the high road, but my intention is always to go the high road, to go the walk of peace. And I do it for myself, for the kids, for my ex-partner, for whoever is involved, because the more you talk negative about anyone else, it comes back to you. And I have this, what I tell my kids, when you show this, when you point the finger towards someone else, there are always three fingers pointing back at you. So when you talk bad about someone else, your subconscious doesn't know if it's someone else or is it you. So it always comes back threefold. That's how I see it.
And Marcel, I thank you for elaborating on that, because I love that you incorporated, number one, Nelson Mandela's journey, right? Of always going the peace route, right? We get to choose. We get to choose who we want to be in every situation, right? And then I love how you touched on not allowing the societal shame, right? Because that's a real thing that we don't talk about, is how society tends to shame us into the decisions that we need to make for certain situations, right? Like, I know that it's frowned upon in certain religious denominations to get a divorce. But for you, it was more so the shame of the family being broken apart, right? And I love how you've been able to really cultivate a unique perspective around this, that a lot of people are still a prisoner of their shame, of their anger, of their guilt, right? Of this very common situation that happens, right? But you've been able to revolutionize it and create a movement around it. Marcel, another thing I want to touch on, right, is you being a dad, right? Being a father, to me, is truly a remarkable thing. And I commend you for stepping up, because, some people know this journey of mine where my father was very absent in my life, right? And I applaud you for being present in your kids' lives. And so, Marcel, can you elaborate how, when you spend time with your kids, how that helps you to continue to show up as the person who you are today? How do your kids influence your work today?
I think the kids are the greatest teachers. They have such a genius, and that's not just because it's my kids, it's any kids. They have genius level of understanding, and they see much more than we think. So the kids, through their eyes, I learn a lot about being present and being grateful and being in flow. So you ask about flow before, when flow is about being in the moment, in the present moment. And as we go through the education, we lose the sense of flow. We lose the sense of being present, because we are so anxious about what is happening in the future. How do we pay the bills? How do we make this happen? How do we reach the next position or in the career? So we are so much in our head overthinking, and not so much in our heart space. So what I learned from the kids is really being present, and they can can, with a piece of wood, they can imagine it's a spaceship, or it's it's a pistol from a cowboy, or whatever it may be. They are so rich in creativity. They are super creative and super expensive, and we lost a lot of that on the way through our education, our career.
Marcel, I gotta ask this. Out of your children, which one would you say is the most like you, that you see is going to be like, oh, this one's going to be another me coming into the world? Or do you see a little bit of you in all of them?
Yeah, I've my oldest one. I have 3 boys, and my oldest one he's the diplomat, and he's really good at negotiating when I need a peace talk with my youngest one. He's 6 years old, and really his mind is really strong, and he never loses his battles. So the only way to reach him is by using the diplomacy of my oldest one. So I'm not sure. I think in each one of them are elements, and elements of me, and elements of my ex-wife, and and then it's just showing up for them and helping them to live their dreams and be their best selves, and not wanting them to live my dreams, because their dream should be different than my dreams.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think, maybe one of them wants to be like you, right? When they grow up, right? Like, see how successful you are, and the mindset that you have to, help other dads, right, who are in the same boat as you.
Funny enough, I just, when you say this, my middle one, he came to me and says he wants to write a book like me about surfing. So he wanted to have a book like this. So he was starting to draw on papers, and he talked about how important flow is for surfing. And so yeah, of course they copy, they know what we value as parents, and of course they want to connect with you, so they will say they love surfing and all of that. But yeah, so they have some of the elements, some values they have from me.
Well, and maybe that could be a co-authored project, or maybe your next book is for young kids or young adults, right? Maybe Unthinkable for, youth, or Unthinkable for teenage boys, how to use flow to start to love yourself. And, when you encounter things like me, you're able to still stay afloat by leveraging gratitude.
Yeah, actually, I had this idea for a long time to write a children's book, and because each of the kids, they have some superpowers, right? Maybe a society tells them they have ADHD, or whatever it may be. There are so many names and boxes that some people want to put you in, and the idea would be to write a story about the superpower, where actually the superpower, the special skill, in this case ADHD, can be the superpower to solve a situation. So that's for the future.
Well, yeah, it's converting the society stigma to a strength, right? I talk about this all the time, like, little digression. So like 2 months ago, I had the opportunity to speak at my alma mater, Kent State University. And one of the students in the lecture hall while I was speaking, he asked me a question about how he can use his voice to start speaking about his unique ability. Now, I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly what he said that he had, but he had some unique thinking ability. And I said to him, I said, well, what's something that you know about this that society does not? How can you educate me on your unique version of autism or neurodivergency? Because I'm not familiar with it, but I said, I'm interested in learning. Just, more than I do. So it was kind of the same thing, like what you mentioned, Marcel. And I feel like I made his day. by giving him an avenue to take what society has placed on him like a noose and instead converted it into a strength that he can use to create a community, even before he graduates from college. So we're going to take another quick break right here on the Grief Grantor, everybody. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Marcel. Everybody, welcome back right here on the Grief Grantor. We are joined by Marcel, and we were continuing our conversation, of course, about his journey of going from divorced dad to now really helping other people to embrace gratitude to evolve their grief journey. Marcel, I got to touch on this because I was waiting to talk about this. You have this amazing challenge called the Unthinkable Challenge. I want you to talk about this because I think this is what you've built so much around, and you're helping so many people to step over hurdles, boundaries, work with their grief by using the Unthinkable Challenge. So share with our audience about the Unthinkable Challenge.
Yeah, so the Unthinkable Challenge is what I broke down after writing 7 years on this book. And I broke it down to make it really simple. And for me, like my mid-son, I was told I have ADHD, so I have a lot of ideas, and I'm a dreamer, so I'm usually in my dreams. And to really focus on what's most important to achieve my dreams, I created this 21-day Unthinkable Challenge, which is I practice a skill, habit, or activity that scares me, that is outside of my comfort zone, that is connected to my greater vision, my dream, and based on my values. And I practice it for the next 21 days. And that's usually half an hour or more per day. And just my latest challenge is writing my next book in 21 days. And I started yesterday. So this is what I do. This 21-day challenge is how I build my life. I stack one 21-day challenge onto the next, and sometimes I have multiple challenge. It just helps me to focus on one thing that is really crucial to make my dreams happen, because we have so often we are stuck in our minds, and we have big dreams, but we don't take the little step that are necessary today to close the gap between your dream and your reality. So this challenge helps me to find the right balance between the great vision and the action, the small daily actions, and being present.
So, Marcel, I have so many questions around this, of course.
Shoot.
So, how many, since you started this Unthinkable Challenge for 21 days, how many have you done so far?
Yeah, I cannot count it because I have done it for years. So I've always do different challenges. So it's always a physical challenge, a mental challenge, a professional challenge. So yeah, I don't know. So if you do 21-day challenges, there are 17 in a year. If you only do once, if you only do one at the same time, but I do multiples at the same time. So yeah, I don't know, hundreds.
So, Marcel, I got to talk about this requires discipline, right? And how do you, in a sense, maintain the discipline to not just do one every 21 days, but multiples at the same time?
yeah, it's all connected to my dreams. So and for me, it's not really discipline. It's more it's just showing up. I don't know. I'm not sure about discipline anymore. It's more about setting an intention and then showing up. And it doesn't mean that I want to move the world every day, but it's just creating this space where you show up for yourself. So it's actually an act of self-love. So by showing up for yourself, by doing something that makes you the best version of yourself, and by reaching your dreams, you actually practice self-love and self-care. So you have to do that first before you do anything else. And that's especially for dads, separated dads. In society teaches us that the well-being of the kids is the most important. And of course, I agree with that. And yet, if you don't take care of yourself, you cannot show up as a dad. If you don't love yourself, you cannot be there for your kids. And the kids always watch you. Even if they don't see you, they always watch you. So however you show up in your professional life, and when the kids are not there, the kids see you at all times.
I agree. And Marcel, I love what you touched on about how doing these challenges every 21 days is an act of self-love. It kind of reminds me of incorporating self-care into your daily routine, right? So, Marcel, doing something unthinkable, what's one thing that you've done in your unthinkable challenge that you were terrified of, and now you've checked it off your bucket list? Was it doing a public speaking thing? Was it your first book? What was something that you did in your 21-day challenge that was something you didn't believe you would ever do?
Um, so the first book I wrote, it took me 7 years. So I cannot count it as that, but that was something unthinkable for me. But for me, maybe I have to put the context about unthinkable. When I started my journey, it was always about me feeling lack and me feeling not good enough. So that's how it all started. So the quest of doing something that was difficult, doing the unthinkable, was something to prove that I'm good enough, that I'm okay. And recently, when you love yourself, you don't need to do something to be good enough, because you are just good as you are. So the perspective has changed on unthinkable. Nowadays, the perspective is that unthinkable is personal. It has to be connected to your dream.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing the unthinkable is jumping off a high tower without without a parachute. That's unthinkable, but it's actually stupid. So if you do unthinkable just for the sake of doing unthinkable, that there is no point in that. So it's only valuable when you actually make your dreams happen, because making your dreams happen is an act of self-love, as I said before, and you become the best person that you can be when you achieve your dreams, which is also you show up as the best person for everyone that is around you.
Oh, I agree. Marcel, when I think about your unthinkable challenge, I feel like I did it before me and you met. So in July of this year, me and my friends went on a road trip to Canada. We went to Niagara Falls. We went to Toronto. Well, one of the things that we checked off our bucket list was to zip line over Niagara Falls.
Wow.
Now, I was supposed to do this for my 30th birthday, but for my 30th birthday, my whole house had COVID. So that was a no. And of course, the whole world was shut down still. But I remember when we started to plan for the trip, where we're going to stay at, the different tourist attractions. And my friend sends me the itinerary in an Excel spreadsheet. And she's like, oh, we're going to zip line over Niagara Falls. And I'll be honest, I was starting to sweat, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. Is this really going to be it? So I just booked a ticket online. I said, I'm going to book a ticket. I'm not going to think twice about it. And I actually booked mine with my zip line experience recorded. So we get to the very top of, all the steps you got to go up. You know how you go to the amusement parks, you got to go up 90 million steps to get on the 5-second ride. And then you get where I'm going, Marcel. So we're right there. They're loading us up with the harnesses. We sit down, they latch us in, they tell us to wave at the camera, and I'm like, literally, my hands are sweating because we're so high up. And it's not that I'm afraid of heights. That's not it. It's more of like, is this thing going to be fast? Am I going to like start off fast and go slow? Is it going to break? What's going to happen? Right. And sure enough, it was quicker than what I thought. From the ground, when you're watching people zip line at Niagara Falls, it looks slower, but it's faster than what I imagined. And I'm proud of myself because I literally booked my ticket a week before we went. So I think I've proved the unthinkable challenge is worth it, right? Like kind of that spontaneity sometimes, because that was something that I put on my bucket list. I literally have a 300 goal list for me that I've created, and that was on there. So to your point, Marcia, I think that the 21-day challenge or the bucket list, it really shows that investment in self, that self-love, and really going after your dreams, even if it's just little short spurts of just ziplining over Niagara Falls. So
yeah, and I think you don't have to think about what's your bigger vision. Where as long as you follow what excites you, it will always be connected to your vision and dreams. How you do one thing, you do everything. So if you expand your courage in one area, you will have more confidence, you will have more self-love, you will have more trust in yourself, and so doing the unthinkable really helps you to be your better version. And it's not about becoming someone else, it's about becoming more of who you are. That's so taking away layers of conditioning and becoming the really true person that you are.
And I think, Marcel, what you also just said too is intentionality, right? Like you don't have to go by society's narrative of 18 years to write a book, right? You're doing this now to write your second book in 21 days, which please let me know when it comes out. We'll definitely share it on the show. And, but I think that doing these 21-day challenges or 30 days, however it works, I really think that it's about intentionality. It also shows that we can defy the odds in any way, right? Like I made the joke years ago that I can write a book in a day. I'm waiting for it to happen. I feel like it is coming, that next book. So I cannot wait to write my next book in a day. We'll see how that turns out. So Marcel,
would you like to join me on the 21-day book writing challenge?
Absolutely. Sign me up. Yes.
I started yesterday, so today was day 2, and just will be 21 days. So if you want to join me, you're welcome.
Hey, you don't have to tell me twice. I will be on like Donkey Kong. So we're going to take another quick break right here on the Grief Grantor, everybody. When we come back, we'll finish our conversation with Marcel.
Hi, it's Mark from Life Stories with Mark Hoberman. My show airs on E360 TV Fresh Takes Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. EST. You can also see my other show, Lighting the Educational Flame, which also airs on E360 TV Fresh Takes Monday nights at 9 p.m. EST. Can't wait to see you there.
All right, everybody, welcome back right here on the Grief Grantor. Marcel, I extend my gratitude for you coming on the show and, of course, being the first gentleman to come on the show and really touch on the grief from a male perspective. So, Marcel, before we wrap up, I always love to, again, thank you for coming on. And again, if our audience wants to connect with you, please share your social media and website one more time for them to find you.
So the website is unthinkableliving.com, and the Instagram handle is Unthinkable Mastermind. Yeah, you will find me there.
Excellent, excellent. Marcel, one of the things that I touch on in this show is about forgiveness. And I talk about it from the fact that my father was absent in my life a lot, but I learned through his absence to be present on the day of his transition. And I also learned to forgive him for the things that he woulda, coulda, shoulda, because at the end of his life, he really didn't know who he was due to the Alzheimer's and dementia. And I recognized, how can I hold this individual, in a sense, to a certain standard when they don't even remember parts of their life? So, Marcel, for our audience who's tuning in, how can they, whether it's a dad who is in your same position or is about to embark on their grief journey from a divorce, how can they learn to forgive not only just the other people around them, but also forgive themselves in order to really find that flow to their next endeavor in life?
Yeah, the most important is letting go of the feeling. Yeah, letting go of your kids, and you have to be okay with letting go. And it doesn't mean that you don't love them, but whenever they leave my house, it's really, for me, it's really heartbreaking to see them go, because I would love to spend all the time with them. And so I really create this moment of presence with my kids. And when they're leaving, I just let them go. And then that's when I go to nature and do like grounding meditation, or just being present in nature. So that's, for me, it's gratitude. You cannot be angry and grateful at the same time. And I have this ritual in winter, especially here in Switzerland, that I light candles. And I have a plate, like a board of 30 candles, and I light them, and each candle stands for something that I'm grateful for. And just imagine, when you're sad, go into gratitude. When you're angry, go into gratitude. When you're afraid, go into gratitude. It just shifts your state of being, because think about it, you cannot think negative thought and a positive thought exactly at the same time. So if you choose being present and being grateful, you move away from being angry and sad and all those emotions.
See, Marcel, I knew we were cut from the same cloth. I go to my gratitude journal when I'm sad, when I'm not happy. I literally go to my gratitude journal for that reason, because I know if I go to the gratitude, then it will help to ease the anger. It will ease some of the sadness, and it will refocus. It will help me to focus on what's present in my life and what I currently value, instead of things that are out of my control.
And I do the same. I practice the same with my kids. Whenever they spend the time with me, I have this ritual. Even if it's just a night, I always have a bottle of kids champagne. And
That's
I
so cute.
so Thursday night, when they come to my house, I always have a bottle of kids champagne, and we always celebrate vacation. So I tell them, whenever you are with me, we are on vacation, even if it's just a night, and next day they have a school day. It's we always celebrate. So that's a kind of being grateful and celebrating. And the other thing is, at the end, before they leave, I always ask them about their highlights and what they enjoyed the most. And usually, because they're kids, they're really in the present, so they just remember just the last thing we did. So really make it count what you do before they leave. And it's not about really the doing, it's more about being and creating moments. And it's not about things, it's about creating moments and experiences.
I love that, Marcel. And, I appreciate you sharing that, because it really is. It really is about creating those experiences, those memories, those moments, because that's something that they'll take with them for a lifetime. Well, everybody, Marcel Kuhn that you heard from. And that concludes another episode on the Grief Grantor, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and until next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Grief Grantor. May the story shared today light your path and guide your heart toward healing. Remember, with every moment of grief, there's an opportunity for gratitude, resilience, and empowerment. Continue your journey with us online and share your own story, because in this tapestry of life, every thread matters.